So welcome along to Philips TV event. This is the first opening evening. We've just had the plenary, however you want to pronounce it, where they have announced some of the models. We won't get to see them until tomorrow morning. Don't worry, you get to see them in this video. But this is the opening night, and a lot of the things that we predicted have actually happened this year. So Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos do come to the Philips lineup, not only on the new OLED TVs, but also on the LED LCD lineup. And then there's this TV behind me. They're calling it the one to watch, or the one. This is the TV that they think all the reviewers, all the journalists, anybody that knows about TVs, so AV Forums members, you know, you're all clued up on your TVs. This is the one you're going to recommend to your friends and family because it hits the sweet spot. It's the right size, it has the right amount of flagship features brought down to a reasonable price level that's not a flagship. And now, AV Forums, we always talk about the flagship TVs, and we're going to cover them in the next section of this video, the new OLED screens. But not everybody can afford one, not everybody is clued up on what the latest TVs are, and the first thing that they punch into Google is, what is the best TV? Well, this is what Philips say it is. It's a 7 series. The actual model number, forgive me because I'm going to have to read it off the wall, is 7304. They reckon it's going to be the one. So will it? We'll find out when we get it in for a review. So let's fast forward to tomorrow. Let's go and see what they are actually releasing this year in terms of product, and we'll also catch up with some of the spokespeople. So Danny, 2 new OLED models, our forum members are going to be interested in those, so maybe you could tell us about them.
Yeah, so we're going to do a new P5 version in our OLED range, which is the P5 third generation. It comes with an exclusive new picture processor on top of the already exclusive P5 processor for more processing power to improve on noise reduction, improve on detail enhancement, and also improve the last year introduced new feature, Perfect Natural Reality. Again, a performance up of 20%.
Now, I think the big thing, or the big story certainly for us, is that you've gone Dolby Vision as well as HDR10+. What was the thinking behind that?
Yes, so we're now added Dolby Vision because Dolby Vision now agrees on us adding P5 on Dolby Vision. So, and on the 2 existing Dolby Vision modes, being Dolby Vision Dark, we don't do anything. We do like the director intended, but on the Dolby Vision Bright, we are allowed to do our P5 processing on top of that, making sure then that we keep our PQ differentiator, that we are better in sharpness, in artifacts, and in motion than all of our competitors doing Dolby Vision. And moreover, we're doing Dolby Vision in the entire range, or 90% of our entire range, down to the 6000. So the combination of HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision is all down to the 6000, which is quite a big part of the range.
So are you able to tell us what you're doing in Dolby Vision Bright then? What processing are you adding on there?
We're adding sharpness enhancement, we're adding source perfection, and we're also adding perfect natural motion on top of the default Dolby Vision Bright mode.
And Dolby are obviously happy with you doing that?
Yes, we are perfect. We have aligned on that. They're going to certify both modes, so that's now all aligned and nicely.
Now, one of the small disappointments we had last year with the models was the latency, low latency for gaming. And obviously HDMI 2.1 is a big thing this year. So do your sets have HDMI 2.1, and have you improved your input lag?
We have improved our input lag. We are going down now also to 20 milliseconds, but we are not doing HDMI 2.1 this year.
Okay, so the big question is going to be why manufacturers are not going 2.1 when it's available, and I think there's a lot of confusion out there. So maybe you could explain to our users why you don't have 2.1.
Simply because, yeah, we haven't planned it. Not for 19. We know that the early chips or the first chips were available, but actually for us, just a bit too late to include them into our new program, so we are exploring them for the future.
And so if a consumer's looking at buying one of your OLEDs this year and they're wanting to future-proof, is there something that they're going to miss out on if they go with a TV this year? Are they better waiting for 2.1, or Are the features not really necessary?
I don't think the features from 2.1 are very big features. There is variable bitrate, variable delay or lag rate, which is, I think for most of the people, the input lag we have and the frame rates we can handle now are good. Only the real detailed guys will see a difference, but not a majority.
Okay, so the 804 and the 854 are the model numbers for the OLEDs. What is the difference between them?
It's more in sound and in design, but picture quality-wise, they're exactly the same.
So exactly the same on there. So is it a new 2019 panel from LG Display on?
There is a new panel. It's called V19 panel, but there's no major difference in picture performance in that panel. The differences are more into anti-burn in solutions.
Okay, that's interesting, because it's one of the things that does put people off going to OLED is I would say the internet fascination with burning. So what have you added in there to mitigate against that?
That's done by the OLED supplier, and that's basically pixel structure again slightly changed to avoid burning.
Between the 803, 903 and the new models this year, what are the major differences? Is it just P5?
Yes, at least there is, of course, design updates which you will get in the other workshops. But in terms of PQ, it's the additional chip that we're adding for the third generation with the 20% performance increase.
Another big buzzword from CES this year was 8K. No 8K models from yourself. Do you see that as a future, or are you going to concentrate on getting 4K right first of all?
This year we're not going to launch 8K, that's clear. There's no need to launch 8K. If I can, at this moment, compare our best 2K18 models with P5 second generation and 4K resolution screens, OLED screens, we can easily stand the 8K competition that has been introducing products after IFA. But we are, of course, exploring 8K also for the future, near future, long future.
And just to wrap up, Danny, lots of competition out there when it comes to OLED and LED TVs. What do you think makes Philips stand out above the rest?
P5, of course. Our picture performance, we did over the last 2 years, we've did 3 PQ shootouts, 2 of them in London, with AV Forum readers, where we won with fantastic scores, like 68% preference, like 56% preference, and in Germany 76% preference. P5 really stands out and gives you the best picture quality you can have in the market right now.
This is Andy Kerr from Bowers and Wilkins. This is the new generation LED set from Philips TV. This model is the 8804, which is their flagship LED panel. And we've worked with them, as we did on the OLED 903, to produce an improved sound system. So most of the drive unit components that you'll see in this product are shared with the OLED 903. So we've got the same configuration of a 90mm titanium dome tweeter, a glass fiber mid-range drive unit sitting in this modified housing. The housing itself is decoupled from the assembly so that we're not transferring too much vibration through the structure. And that lives in this area below the screen, obviously, as you would expect. So we're trying to get a nice open area, get the energy moving forward into the room. And then on the back of the panel, we've got our low frequency enclosure, which is this one. And again, you'll recognize it because it's related to the one that we used in the OLED 903. The difference is in this particular case, it's slightly lower down within the assembly. And the reason for that is because this is an LED set, and of course it's got a backlight. If we had it higher up within the panel, we'd actually be agitating the panel itself, which of course would have a bad effect on picture quality. So we've got it lower down within the structure, and then it's decoupled. So it lives in its own decoupling mount, so it's free mount at the back of the screen down here. The intent, of course, is the same as we had with OLED 903. So what we're trying to do is get a nice open and free sound, so it comes out of the enclosure. It doesn't remain confined within the acoustic center of what you can see here, which of course is where the drive unit's place actually live. Instead, the sound comes out and matches the viewing center of the screen, which is clearly what you want. We're tracking, of course, for things like intelligibility and clarity. There's a good amount of bass response as well. We're getting down to around 70 hertz in a larger room, in a standard room, so a decent amount of bass energy from the product. In addition, at the front end, we've also got a new input pathway, so a new DSP stage, and we've got Dolby Atmos decode capability as well. So in terms of physical transducers, it's still a 2.1 system. There's no additional upward firing drive units, but it does mean if there's any object-based content within the mix, then we can decode that, and we can attempt to try and place it spatially within what you're hearing.
So Peter, we've gone through the OLED TVs, which is obviously the flagship models, but you do have a whole host of LED LCD TVs this year. One of them is called The One, so let's start with that one.
Yeah, exactly. It's called The One. It's our medium segment proposition. So it's a TV which is not the cheapest one, nor the most expensive one. It's like the most reasonable choice within our portfolio. So it's like the mid-end TV, you could call it. The full name of the series is 7304 series, and it's based on Android. It has Google Assistant built in. It works with Alexa. It supports Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, and HDR10 Plus. So you have and many more features like three-sided ambilight, for example. So we took a lot of attention to have all those most important checkboxes ticked off. So it has the most important features, which makes it like a future-proof, very reasonable product proposition. It is also, we put attention also to the design of the TV. So we use the real materials there, how we call them. So the feet and cabinet, the bezel, it's all metal. It's not plastic. So you can really feel this high quality of the build of the TV. And we want to focus this campaign next year on this product because we believe, many times we spend a lot of time talking about those high-end, very expensive TVs, but there are lots of people around Europe which simply just won't afford these super high-end TVs, and we just want to direct their attention to a product which is affordable, which won't kill their budget, so to say, but it's still a very decent TV.
Obviously, so that's the middle one, so maybe you could tell us about the rest of the lineup when it comes to LCD.
Yeah, so we have both TVs, LCD TVs upwards and downwards from the one. So the step up, the up is the 8000 series, which is the TV behind me, and that's called 8804. It will have Bowers and Wilkins sound implemented and a bit more fancy setup, a more narrow bezel. But mostly the sound will be the biggest delta between the 1 and 8804. Also 8804 has a little bit wider color gamut, so you'll get more of the HDR quality, so to say, on that set. On the opposing side, we have TVs which are below the one, which is 6000 series, which is still 4K. It has still ambilight, three-sided, but it's based on Sapphire smart TV. So it's not an Android TV set anymore, but it's a Sapphire, meaning our own Linux-based smart TV system, which we built with having in mind first and foremost the ease of use. So we want the whole family to be able to experience this TV easily. So whether it's your kids or your grandparents, they all should be able to use this kind of smart TV without any problems. As I said, it's still a 4K set, so it's a 4K smart TV capable of HDR streaming. Still very decent TVs with a little bit lower light output, so you don't get as bright picture on these as in the higher end, but they are still quite decent products, of course. And then we have 5000 series, which is Full HD, so the step down is in resolution. And then we have 4000 series, which are non-smart TVs, basically Full HD and HDR and HD ready even in some cases.
Okay, so one of the big questions we've been getting asked on the forums already, looking at the comments, is the backlights. And are these FALD, full array local dimming, or are they global dimming?
So we don't use full array local dimming sets anymore, especially that if you do this properly, the price range comes very closely to OLED. So we think we are rather trying to focus on delivering more affordable OLEDs in future than in building flat TVs, so that's why we don't do it anymore. Though we have dimming technology in our sets, though that dimming technology is not based on zones, but actually we have 3 steps of this technology. So even in the most basic sets, we have something which we call micro dimming. This micro dimming technology is actually dims the whole screen based on the brightness of the scene. So if the scene is very bright, it pushes more light. If the scene is dark, it reduces the backlight. And then since 7000 series, since the one, we also implement light sensor. So it also dims again the whole screen, but based on not only the amount of light in a given scene, but also amount of light in your room. So if you have a dark room, it will reduce the backlight. If you have a very bright room in the morning, for example, it will increase the backlight power. And then in the OLEDs, we have micro dimming premium, but that is actually OLED has every sub-pixel even you can control separately. So yeah, it's like it's exactly same amount of zones as you have pixels basically.
Yeah. So another big story for you this year is Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos being added, as well as HDR10 Plus. So you have 2 of the dynamic metadata systems on there. That's obviously going to help you with the LCD LED TVs in terms of their peak brightness, because you can tone map using dynamic tone mapping to the capabilities of the TV.
Yeah, exactly. And this this technology actually brings biggest advantages, biggest delta in picture quality in the mid-range. So I'm very happy that this year we're going to bring Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus starting from 6000 series upwards. So that will be basically 90% of our new TV models will have Dolby Vision and Atmos and HDR10 Plus on board. I'm very happy about that. And yeah, on the most premium sets, the most expensive OLED sets, it will basically almost any source will look great, especially that you have those upscaling processors like our P5, which do amazing job. And we can create this dynamic tone mapping on the run with P5 processor. But in those mid-end TVs where we don't have those advanced processors, especially in the 6000 series, really especially Dolby Vision, where it kicks in with dynamic tone mapping, but it also maps the capabilities of the screen to the content, then you get the biggest delta. So like there's a huge PQ step up from last year's to this year's 6000 series products.
And the P5 Gen 3, that's only available in the OLED. In the LCD TVs, it's P5, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The one will have something which we call the basic P5 processor, and in the higher end of the range we will have the P5 Pro processor, which has additional picture processing. But I'm sure you've talked with Danny Tack. He's the leading expert on that. I'm sure he explained that well. Yeah.
Paul, you did an interesting presentation at the plenary at this event, so maybe you could quickly go over what that was all about.
Thank you, Phil. Yes, it was really looking at what's going on in the future of the TV market, and especially in UHD. And one of the things that's really been quite a big surprise in the past year is how Western Europe has really leaped to the front. So, believe it or not, Western Europe now, in terms of the TVs that people are buying, has the highest share of 4K TVs shipping of any region, even more than China, even more than the United States. The other one is that our sizes that we're buying have really shot up in the past year. We're very, very close to US levels now. The reason is slightly different compared to the US because we're buying a lot fewer small sets, and that brings the average up. And we see the whole market now really changing towards being about one big high-performance TV in the living room as opposed to several sets in a household.
One of the questions we get all the time, Paul, is our members don't have a lot of room, some of our members, and they want smaller screens, so why can't they have a 49-inch OLED?
The reason is that, of course, the panels are all cut from a very large sheet of glass, and you process this huge sheet of glass, say the size of a sheet of plywood or bigger. And the size that you can run efficiently depends on how you can cut it up. And obviously what you want is that you can pattern out the panels at sizes where you don't waste any unused glass. And the real problem is that 49-inch or 50-inch doesn't pattern out evenly. You get a lot of wasted glass, so you end up with something that costs almost as much as, say, 55. It is an interesting one in the future that in LG Display's next fab, which is a generation 8.6, then you could make something like 48, 49 inch there. And that is, I think, is going to be a commercial decision, which is, do you want to make up 10 of those, or do you want to make 8 55 inch or something like that? And that's a commercial decision. But it could be very interesting. But that's in the future.
And that's it from the Philips event here at the beautiful Hilton Hotel at Schiphol Airport. We've seen some really interesting products. As always, you've got to take these things with a pinch of salt at these events. They are pre-production models. They're not all tuned properly at this moment in time, but it gives you a good idea of what the products are that are coming to market. Some really interesting stuff with LED LCD TVs in the lineup. We have the One, which is the set which Philips say is the TV you should be recommending to your friends and family. We also had two OLEDs announced here. So there was the 804, the 854. Fairly similar TVs in terms of picture quality and features, just some slight differences when it comes to the aesthetics. Again, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos across 90% of the range this year, which is going to be interesting for the LED LCD TVs where they struggle for nits brightness, but because it's a dynamic metadata system, it should tone map to the capabilities of the TV, so you should be getting the best picture quality possible for those TVs. It'll be interesting to see those, and Philips have definitely said that they're going to be sending these out for review this year, so we should be able to tell you exactly what they're like. So that's it. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon on AV Forums.